All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to become financial detectives. Our mission? To take this dense, official document, the 2025 financial report for Apex Mining, and crack it open to see what story it really tells us about their year. Let's get started. So, if you've ever even glanced at an annual report, you know they can be intense, right? Pages and pages of numbers, weird jargon, tiny footnotes. It's so easy to feel like you need an accounting degree just to get past page one. But here's the thing, you really don't. Believe it or not, behind all those numbers, there's a real story. A story about their wins, their challenges, and their plans for the future. And we're going to find that story together. Think of this as our treasure map. We're just going to follow it to find the gold. And here's our map for today. First, we'll check if the numbers are even legit. Then, the big one, did they actually make any money? Next, we'll look at their overall financial health, what they own versus what they owe. After that, we'll follow the actual cash. And finally, we'll put all the pieces together. Okay, so before we even think about analyzing a single number, we have to ask the most important question of all. Can we actually trust this thing? And that is where the auditors come in. See, every public company has to get its books checked by an independent third party. In this case, it's a firm called SGV. Think of them as the impartial referees. Their whole job is to comb through everything and make sure the company played by the accounting rules. And this right here, this is the sentence you're looking for. When an auditor says the statements present fairly in all material respects, that's their professional stamp of approval. It's jargon for, yep, this is solid. Nothing is so wrong here that it would change a reasonable person's decision. It's the green light we needed. It tells us the numbers we're about to dive into are reliable. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the fun part. This is the big one, right? The question everyone wants to know about any business. Was it a good year? Did they actually make a profit? To find that out, we turn to the income statement. You know, the income statement tells a pretty simple story, kind of like a personal budget. Apex Mining brought in a whopping 18.7 billion pesos from selling gold and silver. It cost them 8 billion to get that metal out of the ground. Then, after paying for all the other costs and taxes, what was left? Boom. 7.1 billion pesos. That is the bottom line. That's the number everybody looks for. And just to be super clear, after paying for everything, miner salaries, equipment, taxes, the whole shebang, this is the pure profit the company made in 2025. Now that's an impressive number on its own, but the real story comes alive when we add a little context. And this chart is what I'm talking about. It really puts that 7.1 billion into perspective. Just look at that jump. From 3.5 billion in 2023 to 4.3 billion in 2024, and then they just soared in 2025. This wasn't just a good year, it was a breakout year. So our first clue is crystal clear. The company is highly profitable. But profit is only part of the picture. Is the company built on a solid foundation? To understand that foundation, we look at the balance sheet. Now, this isn't about 1 year's performance. It's a snapshot. It's like taking a photo of the company's entire financial health at a single moment in time, in this case, on December 31st, 2025. The concept is simple, and it has to, well, balance. On one side, you have assets. That's everything the company owns, like cash, equipment, and mining rights. On the other side, you have how they paid for those assets. They either borrowed money, which are liabilities, what they owe, or they used money from the owners and from profits reinvested over the years. That's called equity, and it represents what the owners actually own. And here's the picture for Apex. Their total assets are worth 41.1 billion pesos. Now, look at how they're funded. Only 29% is from debt they owe, while a massive 71% is funded by the owner's equity. What does that tell us? It tells us the company has a very strong and stable financial foundation. It's not overly reliant on borrowing. So they're profitable and they're stable. But there's one more piece to our puzzle. Profit on paper is one thing. But where did the actual physical cash go? The statement of cash flows tells us exactly that. It's the most real world of all the statements. A company's cash moves in three main ways. It comes in from its main business, that's operating. It goes out to buy things that will help it grow, like new machinery, that's investing. And it moves between the company, its lenders, and its owners, that's financing. Let's follow the trail for Apex. First, let's look at their core business. A massive 8.2 billion pesos in cash flowed into the company just from mining and selling metals. This is a fantastic sign. In fact, it's even higher than their net income. That tells us their day-to-day operations are a true cash-generating machine. So what did they do with all that cash? Here's a huge clue in our investigation. They spent 5 billion pesos investing back into the business. This isn't money for salaries or bills. This is cash spent on property, new equipment, and exploring for future mines. They are taking their profits and betting big on their own future. And the rest of the cash, 3.1 billion, went out for financing activities. This is where they manage their debts and investors. They use this money to pay down loans, which makes the company even more stable, and to pay dividends, which rewards the people who own the company. It's a smart move, strengthening the foundation while also sharing the success. Okay, we've followed all the clues. We've looked at the income, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. Now it's time to step back and put it all together to tell the complete story of Apex Mining in 2025. So, what's the final verdict from our investigation? The evidence is clear. Apex had an incredibly successful year, with profits soaring. They have a rock-solid financial position, relying more on their own money than on debt. And most tellingly, they took a massive portion of their earnings and plowed it right back into the company, betting big on their future. What this financial report really shows us is a company using a period of great success not just to sit back and count its profits, but to aggressively build for the future. The big investments they made in 2025 won't pay off immediately, which leaves us with the big question: will this bold strategy pay off? That's the story we'll be looking for in next year's report. Thanks for putting on your detective hat and decoding it with me today.